And hi to you all who are following us from everywhere. Here in France, in Paris, it's actually 2 p.m. for this new edition of Campus France Live. And we're going to talk today about Sciences Po School of Research. And to do so, we are remotely with 4 students that I'll present you by their appearance. And next to me here live, I am with Pierre-François, the Dean of the school. You're a sociologist yourself, which is a good way to introduce the school because many people make a comparison between Sciences Po and political science, and you do some research in political science, but actually the School of Research of Sciences Po goes way beyond this. Can you introduce us to your school with a few key figures?
Yeah, well, if you want to present the School of Research of Sciences Po, one way to do it is to draw on its specificities compared to the other school of Sciences Po. First, I mean, this is the only school of Sciences Po which is organized around disciplinary lines, and you're perfectly right to say that we do not train only in political science, even though the very name of Sciences Po might be a little bit confusing, of course. But this is where we came from, but for decades, almost centuries ago, now basically what we do is that we train students in 5 disciplines, that is economics, law, history, political science, and sociology. And so what we do basically is that we train students in these disciplines, that is, we are a disciplinary school. So this is the first specificity, and the second specificity is that we train students at the master degree, but also at the PhD degree, and we are the only school in Sciences Po who do both. And so what we do is that we accept students in master, and after students are graduated from Sciences Po at the master degree, they can choose to stop there, or they can choose to do a PhD elsewhere, or they can decide to do a PhD in Sciences Po. And when they decide to go and to make a PhD in Sciences Po, then they need to apply. I mean, it's a selective process, and if they are accepted, then they can keep on for 3, 4, 5 years. And so basically, we have about 200 students in M1, 200 students in M2, and we accept around 60 students in PhD every year. And every year, about 60 students defend their PhD, and so that means that we have between 300 and 320 students in PhD in these 5 disciplines.
And how international is the School of Research of Sciences Po? Because the school, of course, is based in Paris, and many students are French, but not only.
No, well, basically it's 50-50. So there are 50 students who are French, but some of them actually got trained elsewhere, and so they come back to make their PhD, or they come back to make their master in Sciences Po, but even though they were trained elsewhere before. But we've got about 50% of French students and 50% of students who come from abroad. From abroad, it means that it's all over the world. First and foremost Europe, of course, but also North America, and also Asia, India, Africa, South America, etc., etc. So really completely international school, and it's also international in the sense that we also give the possibility to the students to work both in French and in English, and they get taught in French and in English. So this is basically a bilingual school, as most of Sciences Po school.
And before we receive the testimony from your students, I know that it's a curse word for third years. It's a marketing word. We also speak about the DNA of a school. But what do you think would make Sciences Po School of Research a rather unique place for research?
Well, I think it is definitely unique because we try to mix, and actually we do mix the French tradition of social sciences, which is extremely strong, extremely bright, and the international work. I mean, social sciences have developed around national lines. So when you talk about social sciences, I mean, the social sciences in Germany or in France or in Italy or in the US, I mean, they are not exactly the same. And what we can provide for international students is a direct contact and a direct link to the very bright tradition of French social sciences. And yet, at the same time, we also offer a close connection to cutting-edge international research in social sciences. That is, you get in touch with the cutting-edge research in US political science or UK political sciences, etc., etc. We've got faculties who come from all around the world and who are very well connected to this kind of knowledge too.
Looks thrilling. Let's ask the students if they follow your word. Maybe first go with Yurai Pala. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello. You got diplomed in 2021. So actually this year in political science after M2, and you're actually in a sabbatical. So maybe can you tell us why did you decide to do your research and why in Sciences Po?
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to participate. So as you mentioned, I come from Slovakia originally, and I graduated from the political theory this year in June. Firstly, my choice of Sciences Po, I was hesitating 5 years ago between the UK and France, and I was also accepted to universities in England. But finally, I chose Sciences Po and France for I think maybe two reasons. On the one hand, it was a strong prestige for me. It was a culture, political science or social sciences in France, and the rich history that I always admired of France. And specifically of this school that is very well known even in my country, especially in the link with the European Union, and that is a very high known school for officials and for also for study of political science. And on the other hand, I think it was the accessibility of these studies. For me, even from the Eastern Europe or Central Europe, I could have a scholarship to study. And I also felt a really kind of easy access to international procedure. I was taken into account as an equal and someone who could really get an access to study at Sciences Po at this school, and the procedure was adapted to my background. I passed through kind of interview and the written motivation letter procedure. So this was my way to Sciences Po. And afterwards, I chose the research after 3 years at Sciences Po, 1 year at King's College in London as an exchange year. And it was, I think, the primary motivation was kind of curiosity that I developed throughout my studies, that I really wanted to go much more further in the questions that we approached during my first years. And really, I wanted to understand better, to understand the phenomena of political science, such as rise of rise of illiberalism, the populism, other issues, and also how to better govern society and really be much more skillful in these questions. So do you think this was my choice of the research, and the other advantages, such as the fact that I could have at Sciences Po library lots of resources to my personal thesis supervisor in the last semester in my master thesis, and all this factor of multidisciplinary research and community at Sciences Po.
Thank you so much for this thrilling testimony. Moving on to Leonard Colomba-Peteng. Hello. You're a PhD student in political science, so same question for you. Why Sciences Po and why the research?
So hello everybody, my name is indeed Leonard. I'm French. I'm a fourth year PhD candidate at the Center for International Research, and I work on European security policies in the Sahel region. I was trained and educated in Sciences Po from the very beginning, actually. I joined Sciences Po in 2013. I did my bachelor in the Europe-Africa program. Then I moved to London as an exchange student, and I came back to Paris to join the School of Research. So to answer your question, I chose to join the School of Research, and more specifically, a master in political science, because I knew from the beginning that I wanted to write a piece of research and that I wanted to continue with a PhD project. And my professional project was oriented towards research and teaching. And I think that it was a very good choice because during my master, I had time to read a lot, to get familiar with my field of research, to discover the major debates in epistemology, methodology, and eventually to produce a master thesis under the supervision of very good and accessible faculty members. And I think Sciences Po is a great institution for research because of the massive scientific resources to study. You have a strong institutional visibility given by your research center. There's an international environment in terms of the profiles of the students, but also in terms of partnerships with other university. For example, I will be visiting the University of Oxford next term, thanks to one of these partnership of the School of Research. You also have the possibility as a PhD candidate to have teaching experience, which I think is very important. So I feel that it's a privilege being working in these conditions. And I think Sciences Po is a leading institution both in France and in continental Europe.
Beautiful pro domo pledge. Pierre, I'll ask you in the end to comment all that variety of skills that Sciences Po offers. But moving on to Charlotte Canizo, who's a student in M2 in history. Why did you choose to do some research since you were in Sciences Po at the beginning, and why in this school?
Yes, so I was at Sciences Po from the very beginning. I joined Sciences Po in 2017, and more specifically, the dual degree between Sciences Po and La Sorbonne in history. So I already had a real interest in history during my first year. And I chose the history master's degree at Sciences Po and not at La Sorbonne, for instance, because I was very interested in contemporary history, and more specifically political history and transnational history, which are the two big specialties at Sciences Po. I was also very attracted by the curriculum, and especially the possibility to follow a wide range of courses on different topics during the first year, such as environmental history, the history of international relations, or African history, before really specializing on a topic during the second year. So really, this possibility to explore a wide range of topics before picking and choosing my topic was a very decisive motive for me.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Jeanlouise Rollinger, you're in M1. You're the youngest of the four testimoniers. M1 in international relationships. So why did you choose to do your research in Sciences Po and not go to any other school?
So yeah, I'm Jeanlouise. Indeed, I was born and raised in Sciences Po because I did my BA on the Paris campus. Then I went for my exchange year in Jerusalem. When I got to Sciences Po, I wanted to be a diplomat, but then I realized that, yeah, it was not my thing. Then I had the opportunity to do some research activities somehow during my classes or in Sciences Po. And I felt like it was maybe something that I should dig into. And then I met a PhD candidate that was my teacher. And she told me, yeah, there is a IR, International Relations in Sciences Po, but in a research program, and it could totally work for you. So yeah, I decided that I would go there, and I still attended the open doors somehow for the different schools in Sciences Po, because I was still hesitating between public affairs and the School of Research, and then Pierre-François, because he gave the presentation. I felt like it was really benevolent somehow, that he said, yeah, you're all interested in different disciplines and in research. You might want to do a PhD, but with the thesis that you will write during your second year, you will really see if research is for you or not. And then I was like, okay, well, let's give it a try and see if research is for me or not. And then I will try for a PhD. And I know that in Sciences Po, I can do my PhD in Sciences Po, and it will be very qualitative, and still apply for other very prestigious schools, Oxford, Princeton, whatever. So yeah.
So even though you're not yet in M2, you're already thinking about doing your PhD in Sciences Po. It means you fit in pretty well in this school.
Yes, exactly.
So Pierre, maybe a little bit of comment of all the nice things that have been told about your school. Leonard was raising up the possibility to be a teacher and to be trained. Yorai spoke about the prestige of Sciences Po, and it's funny to hear that because he went on an exchange to King's College, and though Sciences Po is more prestigious for him, and so many other aspects were brought up. So what do you retain of their claims?
Well, first I would like to say that I just love hearing students say something about what they do and what they're planning to do, because I think this is what is really exciting about this school. It is a place where you can basically do whatever you want and still get very high level skills. So this is not a place, this is not open bar. I mean, this is not just a place where you can have some friends and drink some beers and have fun. I mean, of course you can do this, but you are there to get trained, but you choose the topic you decide to work on, and you choose the kind of path that you might want to take. For example, do you want to go abroad? Yes, it's possible. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go to the UK? Do you want to go to Germany? Do you want to go to the US, to Canada, to Singapore, wherever? Well, we've got very, very good partnerships everywhere in the world. And so this is really a place, and since we do not have too many students, it's really possible to customize the process and to have, very, very, we are really closely connected to our students, and we follow them and we help them build up their own projects, and this is what makes it so exciting when you listen to them, because you just realize that basically they do what they want to do, and we are there to help them and to allow them to grow intellectually, and to get all the skills they need to do what they want to do. And so this is really one of the things that I would like to stress.
Jeanlouise emphasized on the fact that if she moved to Sciences Po School of Research rather than another master in Sciences Po, it was because of your speech. So that's a huge responsibility. But you said, don't worry, you'll see if you like it in M2 with the piece. It means there is no pressure. Absolutely when you enter at the beginning of the school, meaning you have to do your PhD, you have to now.
Absolutely not. I mean, this is one of the big difference between the School of Research of Sciences Po and, for example, a PhD program in the US. When you get into a PhD program in the US, basically what you do is that you start with the coursework, which is basically something like our master's degree, but you are supposed to get until the end of the PhD. And here we really want to see whether, and to give the opportunity for the students to appreciate their ability, but also, I would say, their appetite for research. Do they really want to do it? I mean, it's extremely specific. For example, if you want to work on history, you need to be ready to work on old papers, very confused. You do not really get a clue about what's going on, etc., for hours, for weeks. Some people love that. Some hate that. In econ, for example, in economics, you need to be ready to do lots of math, and also to work on database and to learn how to write code. And so this is extremely specific. Will you like it or not? I mean, you might think that you are going to like it and to appreciate that, but once you're in the archives, or once you're in front of your database, you can find it completely boring, and so you need to be tested. You need to test yourself. Not only about your ability, but also about your willingness to dedicate 3, 4, 5 years, maybe your entire life to this. I mean, I really love that. And so I of course, I mean, when I talk to people, I try to tell them that what I'm doing, I mean, I wouldn't change for anything in the world, but I really do understand people who say, well, this is not for me. What we give the students is that we give them the opportunity to try. In M2.
So before you try, you have to be admitted.
Yeah, sure.
So how do you get admitted in Sciences Po? I think that we are connected with Audrey Kerrer, who's responsible for the admissions of all Sciences Po, but Of course, since you know all the procedures, can you tell us how do you enter the school for the master degree, please?
Sure. Hello, everyone. First you need to apply online. It's only online if you are eligible through the international graduate process, because you have two different processes you can go to, either the domestic graduate admissions or the international graduate admissions. I will mainly talk about the international graduate admissions. So if you have obtained or will obtain a non-French undergraduate degree, then you will go through the international graduate admissions process. So you need to apply online. It's a different process than the one from Campus France. So I insist on that, because often we have people thinking that they need to only go through the Campus France. No, you need to also apply through Sciences Po directly. Then you need to choose your programs and check the deadlines, because you can either apply to one regular master's at Sciences Po, which means one master's of the School of Research, or you can also apply to one dual degree or one of both. I don't know if it will be talked about, but you also have dual degree programs at the School of Research on master's level. So very important to check the deadlines, because often it's the first deadline that apply for you. So you need to submit your whole file at the first of the deadlines. And then you need to check if there are specific prerequisites. For the School of Research, there are none except for dual degree programs. And then you need to complete your online application. It's a pretty demanding application. And you need to check first for the international graduate process that you comply with the minimum academic requirements. They are listed on our websites. I can give you some of them. It's a 3.5 out of 4 for the US, for example, 65% for the UK. And those mean that if you do not have those for the bachelor's degree, then you will declared non-admissible. So start your application with references, language test, check your application guide, make sure you complete all your online application, and then hope that the answer will be, the decision will be positive. We wish you that.
For them to please stay online with me, because I have another question in a couple of minutes. But maybe Pierre, after your master, there is the PhD, so there is the possibility for the students of Sciences Po School of Research to continue, and of course to candidate from elsewhere. How does that work?
Well, it works in a way. It's very classical, since I mean it's almost the same process as in many graduate school in the world. That is, we ask for the students to be able to provide some insights about their motivation and also their ability and their skills. And so more precisely what we ask them to provide is first a proof that they've done research before. So having written a dissertation before, a thesis, is really, really important. I mean, you might be able to get access to a PhD without having written a dissertation, but it's really, really difficult. And so, of course, the grade that you get at your thesis, at your master's thesis, is extremely important. And second, we ask the students to be able to provide a project. Okay, so what do they intend to do? We are perfectly aware of the fact that this project will be very different from what is going to happen at the end of the PhD. Of course, I mean there's some huge differences, and if they are not, then this is really scary. But yet at the same time, we want to see whether the candidate is ready to know what's a relevant question, what is not, what are the sources that he might use, and what are the questions that he might not be able to raise because there are no sources, and also to explain why he wants to make his PhD here rather than elsewhere. So here again, this is a very, very selective process. Between 6 and 10% of the application the applicants get recruited at the end. But and every year we have very, very good students from all over the world again, and also from Sciences Po who apply, and we welcome them. We are very happy to welcome them, and we dedicate a lot of time to appreciate and to evaluate the application in PhD, because this is one of the most crucial aspects of our program.
Wow. Leonard, since you're with us, you're one of the lucky 6 to 10%, actually lucky and hardworking. Maybe could you share with us a little trick for those applying for the PhD? What did you think made you the difference, your X factor?
I think, yes, it's a very selective process. You have to have good results, so basically to work hard during the master. You have to have a good master thesis, have the support of the supervisor. This is very important. That may be the factor. Because with your supervisor, you will work on the PhD project. You will construct the PhD project in collaboration with this supervisor. You will do the review of the literature. You will be able to identify what kind of methodology you want to build on. And you will also try to identify to which scientific debate you would like to contribute. So the factor, I think, is the relation that you have with your supervisor and your willingness to work into research. And I think if you enjoy the experience of the master thesis, there's no reason that the PhD project will be a bad experience.
Thank you for the nice insider trip. Moving back to Audrey, I know I have to leave you afterwards, but just Sciences Po School of Research received the label Bienvenue en France because of its many services that it allows to the students who want to come and study at your school. So can you just name them?
Sure. Sciences Po have a whole department dedicated to the students and their administrative steps they need to do before they arrive. We have a visa service, housing service. We even have a healthcare center here at Sciences Po. And what it means is that as soon as you get your admission letter, you will get access to different services. For example, what we call Meet. All the services days, it's an event to guide you through different administrative steps and formalities before your arrival at Sciences Po. We also have webinars specifically designed towards the administrative steps, and also we have orientation programs or welcome programs. So that's what we can do and help you with. And of course, you have academic advisors you can also rely on to help you with your different administrative steps, or at least they can tell you who to contact.
Well, thanks a lot. Thanks for being with us for this live.
Thank you.
We'll leave you. Have a nice day. And we'll move to the student life, because not all of a student life is only working on his thesis and papers. You mentioned drinking beers, but that's not the only thing you do on the Parisian campus of Sciences Po. Many associations are presented there. Could you maybe name them?
Well, here the main message I can put is the fact that Sciences Po School of Research is part of Sciences Po, and so there is a very, very rich student life in Sciences Po, with all the classical associations about sports, cultural life, theater, music, dance, you name it. So that is, if you want to get committed in this student life, I mean, it's definitely possible. On top of that, we have a specific association inside the School of Research, which is Sora, and which is extremely active, and this is maybe the specificity of the School of Research among the gigantic offer of student life, which happens to be in Sciences Po.
So Sora stands for School of Research Association, and actually the representative of the students is Jeanlouise. That's good. You're with us still?
Yeah, sure.
Well, maybe can you explain to the people following us what's Sora doing on a daily basis?
So Sora was created not so long ago. So basically, it took a couple of years to get going. For the semester to come, we would like to organize visits to different research centers in Sciences Po, which are, we have 12 actually. Yeah, because we realized that a lot of students actually wanted to work, to do their PhDs in Sciences Po. However, they didn't have a clue of what a research center looks like. And when you're doing your PhD, you are actually in a research center. So yeah, that would be one main activity. Can you still hear me?
Sure.
Okay. So yeah, that would be one big activity. Then somehow socializing activities between, because as Pierre-François said, we are in different disciplines. Some disciplines are more, I would say, linked to others. I would say, for instance, the masters in political sciences students know themselves when we don't know students in history. So yeah, those afterworks or whatever are meant to bring students from M1, M2, and eventually doctoral students in together to get to know them. We also help with the School of Research and to administration. For guidance, I would say, to find alumni that are not in the School of Research and are doing things that we don't know about, and just to know, okay, if you're not doing a PhD, what can you do? Where can you work? You have a diploma from Sciences Po, but okay, what does it lead to?
Okay. Moving to Uri, because last year actually you were also part of the student life in Sciences Po. I don't know if you launched an association with a couple of friends, or if you were already part of it.
Yes, I can just add some points to what my colleague already said. Actually, it's really a recent association. It was, I would say, 2 years ago, and just it's important to know that there was the pandemic situation, and it kind of slowed down the process of getting things done and things in place. But I think that what I liked about this creation of the association is that it pointed out the resilience and the community of the students at research school. And really, we united during it was in where at first we had the plan to put in place this association, but then despite the pandemic and lockdown, we continued. We did online meetings through Zoom. We played games. We tried to urban strolls, like walking in the Paris, because it was not possible to go in the cafe. So I think that the spirit of the school on a human scale, like the research school, is really not so big that you really can meet people from other disciplines and you can have this community. It was demonstrated in this association, and as it was already said, there is mainly the student life activities, also that there is the professional orientation help. Maybe we did some webinars with alumni and with the PhD students, and also this kind of transversal idea to maybe either help to students to publish their articles in some journals and seminars. But I think that what's important is this association is recent, and the students who come now to school will be able to engage and really build their activities according to their own interest, and I think it will contribute to their whole experience from the Sciences Po and what they can get afterwards. It will help themselves by engaging in this occasion.
Yeah, we thank the technique and the virtuality which allows us to have you four here to testimony, but I really hope that for 2022 all the student life will be in presential, as we say in French. Speaking about 2022, let's have a look at a short video that shows that there is going to be a new campus that's going to be launched. That's impressive. I wish I was in my 20s again to go back and have my scholarity there with that huge library. Maybe to finish this show, let's talk about how you coach, train, and accompany your students and what they're going to do afterwards. This is really a specificity of Sciences Po School of Research, is that you are closer to your PhD candidate rather than many universities.
Yeah, I mean, as I said before the short break, we one of the assets that we have in the Sciences Po School of Research is that we are not a very big school and that we are extremely selective. And so at the end of the day, we have a few students, and so we can really get very close to them and work with them around their project. And this is true at the master level, but this is especially true at the PhD level. We recruited, for example, between 10 and 15 students in sociology, and between 15 and 20 students in political science, between 5 and 10 students in economics. And so this figure shows that when we welcome a student in our program, then we are really in a position where we can, work with them and supervise them very closely. And when I say we, this is not a way of talking. I mean, this is really because the supervision of the students is not just the matter and the problem of the supervisor. That is, when a student, it has been said before, but when a student gets recruited in the PhD program, he becomes part of a lab. And so he has a desk, he can come there every day if he wants, and then he can, interact on a daily basis with many researchers. And so he can discuss his PhD and his dissertation and the literature and the methods, etc., again on a daily basis with very different people. And of course, we also formalize this kind of collective supervision because we have regular meetings between our students and the faculty. And so it implies that at the end of the process, when the students get graduated, of course, they are not left alone in the job market. We follow them very closely. We help them to find a position. And actually, I'm really happy to say that our students find both those who are graduated from the master as those who are graduated from the PhD. Our students do very well on the job market. They find very good positions, and this is because they are talented, but also because we help them and we look very closely again to their project, to their skills, and we help them, for example, to write letters. We write them letters of support. We give them advice. Well, you should apply there rather than here, or if you apply there, then you should do it. And if you apply there, then you should do it. We train them, and so we follow them sometimes several years after they are graduated. And so we really, when we recruit someone in a PhD, we really consider this person to be part of the team for the 10 years to come.
You mentioned the high selectivity of the academic market, job market, of course. But this is also the strength of Sciences Po, is that you have so many links everywhere that for those who did their PhD but do not want to be searchers, or for those who did a master and who do want to proceed in PhD, you have links with institutions, public services, so you can also push them everywhere.
Well, actually, about 40% of our students do not go in the academia. So it's 60% of them do go to the academia and they perform very well, but 40% of them do not go there. And actually, they do very well. They are known in employment. they have get very good position in France, but also abroad. And here again, when I mean abroad, I mean all over the world. And usually, people who work abroad, they basically come back to their hometown or to their home country. But it's also the case of the French who decide to go and to work in the US or in Germany or in Italy or elsewhere. And one thing which is really important for me is that for the PhD we decide to not to keep on working in the academic world, is that their job is pretty different from what they would have done if they had stopped at the master level. And for me, this is really important because a PhD do make a difference on the non-academic job market. And so they have here again very good position. They get very high salary, really really good, and they make wonderful careers. And so in very distinct places, that is, they can work in firms, they can work in think tank, they can work as experts. Many of them keep on doing research, but they can do research in international organizations. We've got lots of economics, for example, who work in the World Banks. I've got a former PhD student of mine who work in the European Central Bank, etc., etc. So they have, they can work in very, very different places. And actually, when we ask them, because we did, are you happy or not in your position? They say, well, we're thrilled. Yes.
Well, before we leave, maybe let's ask our 4 students if they are thrilled. I hope they are. Yorai, you're, as I said
Yes.
in the introduction, you're on a sabbatical year, but maybe just a very short word to conclude of the way you've been accompanied and what you want to do in the future.
Yeah. So maybe I would say that maybe I'm not sure my profile. I think maybe is a complementary maybe to what is a classical profile of someone who after master he took maybe found a PhD immediately or maybe found immediately a job. For me, the message of Sciences Po or research school was really to be curious and never not stop before the boundaries that we usually have, and maybe to go to the world to explore further other spheres. So maybe my first job experience was to doing the wine harvest in the September. So after graduating, but for me it was really a way how to translate from what I learned. I really wanted to go further, maybe to travel more, maybe to meet people from different backgrounds. And currently, yes, I'm more getting back in the touch with my professors, with the Sciences Po careers, where I get some personalized advice on where I should maybe start, how to build my profile. And I think that I can still have this option maybe to think about either career in the private sphere or the professional career in the jobs like in think tank or media, as I have friends who went to this path, or maybe to go back into academia because I really passionate about, or like I really liked my writing of my master thesis. So I think that I am still maybe on this crossroad, but I feel that what the research school gave me was really this drive to put everything into question and to even be able to cross the boundaries and maybe do something that is not usual, that is not classical.
So many options in front of you. That's rather lively. Enjoy. Charlotte, you're in 6 months. You'll be finishing your master degree on World War II. So how have you been accompanied by Sciences Po School of Research, and how do you see the coming years?
I've been really well accompanied. I have 2 supervisors for my master's thesis, so I'm very lucky on that. And within 6 months, I'll be hopefully graduating. And I project myself either preparing the French agrégation in history, or taking a sabbatical year to prepare a PhD project and apply either at Sciences Po or in a foreign university. I'm really looking forward to join maybe a US university or a Canadian one, because on the research topic on which I'm working on is more treated in the UK, in the US, or in Canada. So I'm thinking about working in this country, maybe. I'll see.
Looking forward. Jeanlouise, you mentioned in the beginning that you didn't want to work in diplomacy, but do you know what you want to do later?
When it comes to the thesis that I will have to write next year, so the subject kind of changed, but now I would like to work on just war theory and cyber war. In January, I will be assigned a tutor that will then become the director of the thesis. That's what I meant by benevolence and accompaniment, because we'll really followed closely by the School of Research, and it feels good to not to be so lost in what we want to do. Then yes, I would like to apply for a PhD in Sciences Po or elsewhere. I will see. And if not, I would like to put my skills to the service of the French army or the French administration, and yeah, that's it.
Well, that's quite a lot, but thank you, Jeanlouise. And last but not least, Leonard, you heard Pierre-François mentioning the supervising for PhD. Do you confirm what he said, and how is it looking forward to the end of your thesis?
Yes, of course. I think the PhD is a collaborative adventure, so you really need to be close to faculty members and especially your supervisor. In my case, I attended several scientific symposium with my supervisor. I'm currently writing an article with my supervisor. He supports me in a lot of different ways in the different initiatives that I have. More generally, in your research center, you have the possibility of presenting your research during the seminars. So it's very concrete. This support. It can also be a financial support if you need to go abroad for a visiting period of time. And to answer your question about the future projects, well, I'm in the writing process of the PhD dissertation at the moment, so this is clearly my priority. And after that, I will try to find a postdoc position abroad. I have been studying at Sciences Po for nearly 10 years, so I need to see something else, I think.
I know how intense is the writing part, so thank you for taking the time to be with us. Pierre, I'll leave you the final word. It's so comforting to hear those 4 young people being so confident about the future, about so many options that they have after the accompaniment that you gave. So I'm sure that must be a wonderful Christmas gift in advance for you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, absolutely. But I mean, I'm really happy for them to be to be aware of all these options, and that all these options are actually open, because they are open. And sometimes we need to comfort the students to say, well, okay, of course, I mean, this is a highly competitive world, and you've been through, and you are going to get through a very selective process. But actually, I mean, you're strong enough, and we make you strong enough to be competitive in this process. And so it's really, really comforting to see that the students actually realize that, they know that, they are confident, and they are not. I mean, they are not too self-confident. I mean, they are not arrogant. They just say, well, okay, we are in a good position to do what we want to do, and yeah, this is really, really a nice gift. Yeah.
That will be your final words. Thank you so much, Pierre. Thank you to the 4 of you, Yorai, Leonard, Charlotte, and Jeanlouise, for connecting with us for this very lively show. For those of you who didn't have enough information and testimony about the Sciences Po School of Research, we'll leave you with a final video that gives you more and more inside tricks. It's called École hors les murs. And have a nice day. Bye.
L'école de la recherche sont des valeurs de rigueur, de travail, d'honnêteté, dans lequel il s'agit de travailler sur des faits, d'essayer de mettre au jour de la manière la plus précise, la plus rigoureuse possible des liens de causalité. On apprend toute la chaîne de production du savoir, au fond. C'est ça qu'on apprend à l'intérieur de l'école de la recherche.
On voudrait bien que les étudiants apprennent surtout à bien nommer les choses et à bien en prendre la mesure. Ça veut dire se poser des questions qui sont des questions de recherche, des questions pertinentes, claires, qui ont une relevance sociale, et qu'ils apprennent aussi à aller chercher les données pour trouver les réponses à ces questions.
The core focus really is on honing the analytic and critical skills of our students so that they can write a significant contribution to how we think about politics today.
But what we want to do is to help them developing a historiographical sensitivity, so to speak. They must be able to think in historiographical terms, they must be able to contextualize historically, they must be able to engage in a scholarly historiographical conversation.
We seek to offer students a strong network of peers that end up working in different places around the world. We offer them also a bilingual program and a very rigorous methodological program whereby they have both classes while at the same time they teach their own classes.
They learn microeconomics, macroeconomics, econometrics, numerical methods, and so when they graduate, they feel confident that they can address all the societal questions, all the social, economic and political questions faced by modern society.
J'ai travaillé sur un mémoire qui portait sur la mémoire des massacres de Tiananmen à travers le prisme de l'art. C'est un sujet qui est extrêmement tabou aujourd'hui en Chine continentale, mais aussi plus largement.
Mon mémoire portait sur la diffusion des cybernormes, particulièrement les normes qui concernent la protection des données personnelles en ligne.
My research project is about how China's budgetary reform has redistributed power within its continual structure.
Moi, j'ai fait une thèse qui s'intéresse aux inégalités salariales. Ce que j'ai essayé de faire, c'est de comprendre en fait comment une myriade de comportements individuels qui peuvent être le fait de salariés, mais aussi d'employeurs, d'étudiants, se répercutent sur des distributions de salaires et créent in fine des inégalités.
Mon mémoire vise à mettre en relation les sciences du climat et les sciences économiques afin de réfléchir à des politiques publiques afin de lutter contre le réchauffement climatique.
It was my first experience with doing such a long work and going into an in-depth research, reviewing literature, collecting data, acquiring different sources and try to build out my own argument.
I had to interview somebody who protested against the Algerian war, and that really taught me about the value of a testimony and how, after the fact, the testimony re-articulates history.
Sciences Po offre un cadre extrêmement privilégié de travail à travers des bibliothèques spécialisées, des bibliothécaires dédiés spécifiquement aux chercheurs, à travers des ressources numériques.
J'ai eu un directeur de mémoire issu de l'école de la recherche qui m'a beaucoup aidé à rien que façonner mon sujet, à m'aider pendant les moments de difficulté du mémoire.
Ça a été une super expérience, honnêtement, vraiment intellectuelle et humaine, parce que c'est un laboratoire qui est exigeant et qui en même temps a toujours fait un effort particulièrement grand d'encadrement de ses doctorants.
Je m'intéresse à l'implication des acteurs de la défense et des forces armées dans la gouvernance du climat et de l'environnement. J'ai dû faire un travail de terrain aux États-Unis pour interroger les acteurs de la défense sur place. Et l'école de la recherche de Sciences Po m'a permis de me déplacer à Columbia University, à l'université Columbia de New York.
J'ai été amenée à continuer mon mémoire au Conseil d'analyse économique, qui est un think tank indépendant qui conseille et oriente les politiques publiques en parlant directement au Premier ministre. Et on a donc pu présenter nos travaux sur les Gilets jaunes et lui soumettre des recommandations de politique publique.
Les défis concrets de leur futur métier sont des défis extrêmement exigeants. Moi, ce que je leur souhaite, c'est que véritablement, les éléments fondamentaux, intellectuels, très sédimentaux qu'on met en eux au moment où on est à l'intérieur de l'école de la recherche, que ces éléments-là leur permettent de grandir et de se développer, de se déployer, quelle que soit leur activité professionnelle.